right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks a lot, guys, and thank you for tuning into the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Rich Walsh. I'll be joined by Chris Mueller in a matter of moments at the 93.7 The Fan Cam, and we're going to be there he is right there. We're going to be talking about the Steelers. But I want to touch on this Penn State game because it's really changed in the matter of the last few moments, right? They were down 17-10, but they scored two quick touchdowns. Touchdown by Singleton, who's having a huge game, monster game, interception, and then Singleton scored again, and they're up 24-17. Looks like Penn State could be, 7 minutes to go, could be heading to a national championship game.
Yeah, could be. I thought maybe it'll get called a controversial pass interference call that wiped out a Notre Dame interception just before we went on the air. But ultimately, I think the right call. Defender never turned around to look. Other defender picked it off. I think the defender who was called for interference just never really let Tyler Warren get back to the ball. So it appears James Franklin's team, unless they give this lead back up, will have gone from the catbird seat or the penthouse to the outhouse back to the penthouse, all in the span of about 90 minutes in real time. But as we know with Penn State, they got to close the show here, and that's been tough for them at times.
Yeah, you have your finger on the pulse, especially with Penn State. And, you know, Ray Petlin just asked me a good question, and I thought about this too. If Penn State loses this game, I mean, is Franklin on the hot seat? I don't think so because they got this far. But the guy can't win games where he is an underdog.
He's not on the hot seat if they lose this game, particularly given the fact that the game, you know, it's not embarrassing in any way. It would be them unable to hold on to a late lead, but it would be, you know, they looked like they belonged kind of situation. But if they do end up not finishing this one off and Notre Dame comes back and wins, then the charge that you have that most people have levied against James Franklin remains accurate. He beats teams he should beat. He doesn't beat teams that he shouldn't beat. And, you know, you're in a weird spot if you're Penn State if he does lose this game. If he wins, it changes the entire kind of narrative, even if they lose to the national title game. But if he loses, you still have to look at it and say, are you going to hire someone? You're huge buyout, right?
Yeah.
Two, are you going to hire somebody that actually recruits as well as he does and then transforms it into something better on game day or beats, you know, Ohio State essentially in Michigan when Michigan's good? I don't think that guy is out there to run that program, and that's why I think they're just kind of where they are, and they need to hope James Franklin himself figures out a way to get over the hump.
All right, speaking of where they are, we'll go from one head coach to another head coach here in town, Mike Tomlin. You know, I always say trends matter with Mike Tomlin. You know, almost the exact opposite of James Franklin. He beats teams that he's not expected to beat, and he loses teams that he should never even lose to. But, you know, this is an interesting game here. The Steelers have been, you know, historically, or at least, you know, in recent years, really good against the Ravens. And I thought, you might call me crazy, but I thought they could have won that game. That Russell Wilson fumble really turned things around for me. You could feel that the crowd got back into it. I was at the game. You know, I think it would have been a different story, and you could point to the pick six. But I think for me, if it would be a different story if Russell Wilson doesn't fumble. That was a 14-point swing. I think this game is much closer than the national perspective. You know, I don't think they're a 10-point underdog.
Well, they've never been a 10-point underdog against the Ravens in any game since Baltimore came back into the league. So that's one thing. But, man, you look at the trajectory. You talk about trends, trajectories, what have you. Baltimore looks like a team that's peaking at the exact right time. The Steelers, I'm not even sure they're limping into the playoffs. They might be crawling into the playoffs, you know, on their hands and knees here. They've looked so bad. No team in the Super Bowl era has ever lost 4 in a row heading into the playoffs and won the Super Bowl. Not that anyone really thinks the Steelers can do that. Only one team's gone in, losers of 3 straight, and won the Super Bowl. That was the 2009 Saints. And then the only team really, Richie, the only precedent we have in really the last 30 years for a team playing pretty poorly going into the playoffs and then going on a tear is the Ravens in 2012. They were 1-4 in their last 5. Then Joe Flacco just kind of snapped to and became unstoppable. I don't see that for this team either. Here's another trend that's troubling, Richie. They get outscored, what is it, 56-0?
In the last 4 postseason games. 56-0.
Yeah, in the first quarter.
Yes.
56. So, I mean, that's horrible starts. That reflects on coaching. I think people are assuming that this is a better matchup because they're so familiar with the Ravens. But Baltimore's playing well enough that if Derrick Henry gets going in this game, I don't think it matters that there's no Zay Flowers. I think Baltimore could run the Steelers out of that stadium.
Maybe I'm too close to the situation. I'm there every day in the locker room. My question to you might be, can you really reset? I mean, I think you can because it's a new season. They had the same players that they had, 5-6 weeks ago when they were one of the hottest teams in the NFL. This game, they're healthy. And that's the difference for me. They have Deshaun Elliott. They have Dante Jackson. George Pickens, let's hopefully the good version of him shows up. Those guys are all playing. I think that's important. I don't know what you think, but I think that was a major reason they also lost that game.
I don't think you can just reset, Richie. I mean, these are human beings playing the game, and we've heard that there's seemingly some frustration maybe with the game plans on both sides of the football. It's not like just because the calendar flips over to the postseason that everyone's able to wipe that mental slate clean and go in there, guns a-blazing and gung-ho. I mean, I thought it was cringe-inducing to hear Russell Wilson exhorting Cam Hayward, hey, let's go win 4 in a row. Let's win all 4. Let's win all 4. And Cam probably wants to throw up on the field after that game. He's played his head off and his heart out with the flu. Russ has just executed like the worst 2-minute drill in history. And Russ is the one going, come on, let's go, yeah. No, come on. I mean, you are what your record says you are of late, and right now the Steelers look like anything but a playoff team. So I do think a blowout is absolutely possible in this game, even though I know people don't want to hear that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a close game. But we'll talk more about the Steelers coming up next. Stay right there. 412-575-2600 is the number. Back in a couple minutes.
Oh, sweet sassy Malazzi.
All right. Welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. This is our GMC tweet of the night from Alex Azora. The Ravens Steelers had nearly identical rushing attempts this season. Baltimore ranked second, Pittsburgh fourth, but the Ravens had 1,000 more yards, 7 more touchdowns, and nearly 10% higher success rate. Baltimore has efficiency. Pittsburgh only has volume. I think the running backs have a lot to do with it. Derrick Henry and Najee Harris. Two running backs are at that, in my opinion, are at the opposite end of the spectrum. All right, I think we spoke too soon. This game is about to be tied up with 4:38. Notre Dame just had a big play. I think it was a broken play that we just saw there. But so right now it's 24-23. Could be tied up here on the extra point. Let's go out to Paul in Salzburg. Paul, what's up?
Sure. What I can't understand, and maybe you two gentlemen can explain to me, if I was the owners where Mr. Rooney is in control of that ball club, how can he stand to look at Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin conduct their business the way they do? If I was writing the paycheck for those two men, I'm sorry, don't get me wrong, I have the greatest respect for everybody. They would both be gone.
Paul, the owner is the guy who.
I'm a Steeler fan, always will be, and God bless.
All right, thanks a lot, Paul. I appreciate it.
Paul, the owner is the guy who is happy with the status quo. The owner is the guy that is happy. It almost acts like he's fortunate as the guy who owns the franchise to have Mike Tomlin coaching the team. It's not Mike Tomlin saying, I feel fortunate to coach the Steelers. I think he does. I think he has said that. But Art Rooney is the one who almost puts the head coach above himself. Shucks, we're so lucky Mike is our head coach. Anytime somebody expresses incredulity that Art Rooney would be okay with the current state of affairs, I just point you to literally everything else Art has done and said and how he has acted during his tenure as the principal owner of this team and the guy who calls the shots. I mean, Matt Canada was the worst offensive coordinator in football last year, and we all rightly reacted like it was a genuine shock when he was rightfully let go mid-season. That is how, it takes a mountain moving just to get a bad coordinator out of here. I will not stand here and have people say, I can't believe Art Rooney stands for this. He is the chief reason you are getting so much of the same disappointment year after year after year, because he is the one that is loath to make any kind of drastic seismic changes to this franchise.
Okay, let me ask you this. How much better is Arthur Smith than Matt Canada? And is this a fair question? Does Arthur Smith get a pass because he doesn't have the players that he wants or needs to run his offense right now.
Richie, if you were driving a car that had holes in the floorboards and you could see the ground as you were driving over it, and then I said to you, Richie, get rid of that junker. I'm going to give you a car that has absolutely no frills whatsoever, but the engine does run. It doesn't have air conditioning or heat, but it will drive you from point A to point B with reasonable success. What would you say? You'd say, well, that's not a great car you're giving me, but it is an upgrade over the one with holes in the floor. And that's Arthur Smith and Matt Canada. And I think the reason Arthur Smith is the coordinator here is because he believes offensively the same things Mike Tomlin believes, which is run, 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 maybe pass, run, run, run.
Well, you know, I mean, I was there with the interview with Arthur Smith, and he said he didn't think that they were predictable. And, you know, maybe, hopefully they do something different this game, because he said they're not going to double and triple down on what wasn't working. So, you can't.
I'll believe that when I see it.
Me too.
I'll believe that when I see it. I thought it was inexcusable that they came out so run heavy, and that Mike said it was a personality thing, and it was kind of the way they wanted to establish the game because they wanted to keep the ball away from Burrow. They put up 520 yards of offense, and Russell Wilson threw for 414 when they saw the Bengals, and that was in Cincinnati. And Mike Tomlin, knowing all of that, decided, you know what? I'm going to put the ball in the hands of Najee Harris of the running game. I'll have Cordero Patterson getting a touch late in this game. I thought that was a farce of a game plan.
All right, let's go to Josiah out in San Antonio. What's up, Josiah?
Hey, Rich. Hey, Chris.
Hey.
You know, I listened to the sports desk a few minutes ago, and I had to double-check to make sure Jerry Dulac said what he said. The Steelers got outscored 56-0 in the first quarter of playoff games. I mean, that's atrocious.
The last four, yeah, that's correct.
And it speaks to this offense. Every week it's the same thing. They come out flat as a pancake. They can't really get anything going on the offense. They can't move the ball. And I got one more question for you, Rich. Now, I try not to get involved with this too much, but Peter King had an interesting take the other day. He said if things keeps going left with Aaron Rodgers.
No way. I would never. I appreciate your call, Josiah. I don't think there's any chance of Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins, for that matter, coming here to Pittsburgh. Do you?
I mean, I wouldn't completely rule out Kirk Cousins, as annoying as that is, because he'd be there for the cheap. If Russell Wilson plays poorly and flames out and they redo their quarterback room again, I hate saying this, I just would not completely count out Cousins. I would feel pretty good counting out Rodgers. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that should happen. But, man, I'll go back to that rant I just uncorked about Art Rooney. It trickles down to Mike Tomlin, where Mike Tomlin, because the owner, I think, to some degree, gives him the blessing. You know, they try to get one guy, a young quarterback in the first round. They make a terrible pick of Kenny Pickett. That's what it was. We can all admit it. We're all grown-ups here. And now I think they're all scarred, and they're going to continue to try to fill with these stopgap guys. And the only way you make one of these stopgap veterans work is to put them in a great system with a great offensive mind. And guess what? The Steelers aren't going to hire any of those anytime soon.
Let's go out to Susie and Butler. How you doing, Susie?
Good, Richie. I'm about an 80-year-old woman. I've been black and gold all my life, and following them, from probably 100 years ago when I was at the University of Pittsburgh, and I think I know what the hell's wrong with this team.
What?
How about Justin Fields? Are we all forgetting how we got going this season?
Well, I appreciate your call, Susie.
Hold on, Richie. Let me give Susie some credence there. If they're going to run a game plan that is similar to what they did against Cincinnati, i.e. Mike is just so paranoid about Russ turning the ball over that he's going to keep the ball on the ground most of the game, I'm very serious about this. They won't do it, and they're not going to do it. But if they're going to run that run-heavy attack, you should start Justin Fields. He absolutely, in that sort of game, would give you the best chance to win. He makes the numbers match up better, everything. If that's really what they're planning on doing, they should start Justin Fields.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
I don't think they're going to start him.
No.
And we'll see what kind of game plan they put together.
No, I agree with you. And I actually think, to take this one step further, we're talking about quarterbacks before Susie called. I actually think both of those quarterbacks will be back on this roster next year.
Why would Justin Fields want to come back here?
Well, I think next year you could actually sell it to Justin Fields like, hey, if Russell Wilson doesn't play well this next game, it's an open competition. It's a
but Russ is going to want a multi-year
competition.
Contract to come back. Okay, but
where else is he going to go, though, at this point? He's not going to be a backup somewhere, right? He's not going to have a role like, say, Joe Flacco, right? He's not going to be a guy competing with someone. He's going to want a starting job or a chance to start. Where else can you go
I wouldn't bring him back
be
next
competitive?
Year. If he plays poorly and I were trying to keep either of those two, I'd just say to Justin Fields, it's your job. But I think Justin Fields is going to end up being a bridge quarterback for a team like the Giants, somebody like that. I think he's going to be a 1 year or even like a half-year starter for a team, and he's going to enter that kind of realm for some other rookie quarterback. I find it very hard to gin up a lot of optimism about the Steelers' current situation because I just think at the most important position, they're rudderless and they are clueless about how to address it. And I think a lot of that starts with the head coach, who I think you can say for all his strengths in terms of he's incapable of having a losing season and whatever, he has not shown whatsoever that he can develop a young quarterback in this league.
All right, let's go out to Michael in Beaver Falls. How you doing, Michael?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good, Richie. Hey, Chris, how you doing? Hey,
Good.
Chris, I agree with everything
Hello.
you said. You're spot on, brother. I think that we should go ahead and put Fields in there and sneak that offensive coordinator for Penn State in there, and Steelers might have a chance to win.
Yeah, that's not a bad guy to go out and try to get, right?
I mean, the way that they do fancy stuff at Penn State that ends up not working, no. I think Andy Kotelnicki, I would pass on
So
him as my
you're
offensive
calling him like a
coordinator.
Matt Canada, a better version.
Are we allowed ever to have an offensive coordinator who's a real up-and-coming hotshot? That's a rhetorical question. The answer is no.
All right, we got to take a break. Back in a couple minutes. I want to hear your prediction. I can just give something away here. Two of us on the pregame picked the Ravens. Two of us picked the Steelers.
I think that the Ravens are going to win. I do think that the Ravens are going to cover. I'm going to go with at least 30 for the Ravens. I'll say 34 for the Ravens and 20 for the Steelers. The Ravens haven't been under 30 in a month. The Steelers suddenly can't move the ball. 34-20. Baltimore wins comfy.
Hear me out. This might shock you. I'm going Steelers are winning this game 23-20. This might blow your mind here, but I think they're going to come out with a different offensive game plan and get George Pickens involved early, and the Steelers win this one by 3. It's going to be close into the end. I think Chris Boswell wins it 23-20. I definitely think they cover.
Perfect.
Though. Definitely think they cover.
Perfect. Well, yes, because you have them winning. They're obviously covering.
Well,
You're in great company.
Yeah.
I think you and Mark Cabali have them winning this game. Congratulations. You're out there with Kaboom, who claims a 15-2 record on Steelers picks this year, even though it's like 5 games worse than that.
All right, I'll see you from Baltimore. Thanks a lot, Chris, and I'll see you next week. Hopefully I see you guys on KDK News right now.